Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So 65-year-old Iowa resident Mark Rissi has been sentenced to prison for threats he made to an election official following the 2020 election. One of the targets of Rissi's threats, or I should say election officials or officials in general, one of the threats that he made was to the chairman of the Maricopa County Supervisors. It's a man named Clint Hickman. Hickman spoke at Rissi's sentencing hearing, and he recalled a night in which dozens of Trump supporters showed up at his house. This was while he was home with his wife and his children, and he has some young children. And he became emotional when he started to talk about his family, and he said, quote, "My family has lived through almost a nightmare." Hickman also said that he and his colleagues faced years of harassment since the election. And without mentioning names, he called out some of the comments made by his fellow Republicans, who he said, condemned death threats, but then they go on to say that the election was rigged. And Hickman said, quote, "If you're going to talk like that, we will never get out of this environment." And Hickman asked for the judge to show Rissi, quote, "grace, humility, charity, and compassion." And Rissi apparently had first called Hickman in September of 2021. This was 3 days after the cyber ninjas released the results of their so-called audit, reconfirming that Joe Biden had won the election. So, this group hired by the right, hired by Sidney Powell and Byrne and all these people backing Trump, run by the Republicans, and he reconfirms that Joe Biden won, or the group reconfirms the election, and Rissi is still out of his mind and doesn't want to believe it. So Rissi left a voicemail for this guy, and he said in part, quote, "When we come to lynch your stupid, lying, commie ass, you'll remember that you lied on the fucking Bible, you piece of shit. You're going to die, you piece of shit. We're going to hang you. We're going to hang you." Yeah. So a few months after that, Hickman called someone else. He called the then Arizona Attorney General, a man named Mark Brnovich. Brnovich is also a Republican, by the way. And in the voicemail to Brnovich, Rissi said, quote, "Do your job, Brnovich, or you will hang with those son of a bitches in the end. We will see to it. Torches and pitchforks. That's your future. Do your job." So U.S. District Judge Dominic Lanza presided over Rissi's case. Notably, Lanza is a Trump appointee. And he told Rissi, quote, "Those dissatisfied with the election results cannot threaten public officials and election officials. This is unambiguous and an uncrossable line, and there will be serious consequences." Rissi's attorney requested a sentence of 1 year and 1 day in jail. And at the sentencing hearing, Rissi stood and he spoke, and he first said, quote, "First, I'd like to offer my apologies to the victims." And then Rissi later said, quote, "I did this. It's my fault. I accept responsibility, and I am deeply sorry." And then he also told the judge that he regrets his actions, and he blamed depression and misinformation for the calls. And he said that he was in a, quote, "weakened emotional state when he did this." Rissi told the judge that his mother had recently died. He was experiencing medical issues at the time, and he was, quote, "inundated with misinformation and exaggerations regarding the election process in Arizona." And then Rissi went on to say that he had taken sleeping and pain pills on one of these occasions to try to get some sleep. And he doesn't even remember leaving one of the messages. Apparently his wife told him. His wife, I guess, said, "You got on the phone and you were screaming and yelling at someone." He also said, quote, "More than anything else, I'd like to be forgiven for what I said." Well, the judge pointed out that Rissi told a very different story when he was interviewed by the FBI in June of 2022. So that was nearly 1 year after he made the first call. And during the interview, Rissi told the FBI he, quote, didn't want anyone to be lynched or hanged illegally, but a lot of people still need to be hanged. So, yeah, not really the pills. And according to reporters who attended Rissi's sentencing hearing, when the judge repeated what Rissi said about hanging people, there were audible gasps in the courtroom. And Rissi did accept a plea deal, so he did take some responsibility. In April, he pleaded guilty to issuing interstate threats. And when all was said and done, the judge issued a more severe ruling than the 2 years that were requested by the prosecutor. Rissi was sentenced to 30 months in prison and 3 years of probation. And the judge noted that there was a mass exodus of election workers and officials because of violent threats issued by people like Rissi and others. And he said, quote, general deterrence was extremely important. This cuts to the core of how our democracy works. And then he added, quote, I believe I am acting with compassion. So he could have given him even more. This is one of the more severe punishments that we've seen with threats against election officials. So I hope MAGA is paying attention. I really do. So anyway, guys, I will let you know if I hear any more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share this video. Please subscribe if you have not already. Please become a donor if possible, or leave a thanks or a tip or, whatever, depending on what platform you're on. Really appreciate it. Helps to keep the show going. Really love you guys. Take care. I will talk with you soon.